Welcome back to the Press Club. Thank you very much for staying tuned. A lot of discussion so far and more discussion still to come. Earl, I want to introduce a story that we heard last week. One where this man in Kazaba, his house was broken down and his belongings strewn around the place. I mean, that was heart-wrenching, but it was very nice to see. It was heartwarming to see the kind of support that he got from the public as far as his situation, you know, his children's situation, little ones. I do not know the details of that story, but just the fact that someone, I don't care who does it, if it's a private individual who owns a piece of land or the government breaks down somebody's house, I just think that there is no humanity in that kind of behavior, because no matter what, we are all human beings. We have those hierarchy of needs. Everyone does. And this person, not because he's a roti vendor or whatever he does for his living, to make an honest living as far as I understand, should be treated that way. You know, it was sad. When I listened, it was a very sad story to me, especially when you had young children, infants involved.
Therein lies the power of the media, Clinton. And that guy and that family have been fortunate because somebody at some media house at some point got to know his story and put it out there for the world to see. 20 years ago, before the internet and before TV went beyond our shores, I'm not sure the response would have been as good as it was. And I'm glad for everything that has happened for him. I will also say, however, that he's not the first. He's not going to be the last. And that what happened to him is happening to many more people on a more regular basis than we know. The difference with him was that he had the guts to swallow the shame and pride that others would feel at not wanting the rest of the country to know that they slept outside, or that their children cannot go to school, or that because of a family feud, they lost out in a family feud. That decent, brave, honest, fatherly, single parent gentleman received the support that he needed.
Yeah, and I think
what I would urge is that our reporters, yes, deaths, murders, violence, the sort of stories that we have grown to look forward to seeing and hearing every day. Yes, they are news and they bring us. But you see that story? You see how much that story, when DBS, one station had it, all other stations got onto it. Every single media house got to that story, because it was not just a Pamela Willie story. It was something.
And it had legs too, because it was not something, and this is one of my biggest criticisms of the media, that sometimes we do a story and it dies right there. But this story had legs. There were different angles, different you know, features on it. It walked through the week.
Except Clinton, as my father always said, told me, it's not going to last 2 weeks.
No, well, it's not going to last 2 weeks.
It's not going to last 2 weeks. But what I would like to see is our media people look for those stories. I would like to see somebody
they like to come the human interest,
like Sanford Bell, with the kind of stories that she does. Go out there and you'll be surprised to find the number of persons who end up in that situation, but the difference is they have the shame and pride that does not allow them to want even their neighbor next door to know that they lost in a family feud. But it is happening a lot. There's a lot of that happening. The other one, Clinton, is the whole question of that big issue about sex with underage children.
Statutory rape.
It makes the news. Incest. No, we're not talking about incest involves parents. You're not. But I'm talking about
Because there's
teenage sex and there's sex with underage
Yeah,
children,
statutory rape.
which is what I'm talking about. And that is something that tears the hearts of people every time it comes out in the way that it came out recently. But you know what? It is happening every day. It is continuing to happen every day. Every single one of you watching us here knows somebody who is doing something wrong, but will not report that person because either it's your friend, it's your neighbor, or you don't want to
Or
get
it's the
involved.
man that give you the money to feed your children.
And that is the problem that we have here.
Si
We
pal
know
ni
what is
city
happening.
west la pani
Yeah.
vole. So
No witness, no justice. Remember that. If there's no witness, there's no justice. You didn't see, and therefore people will not know, and it will continue until such time as families stop trying to cover up because it's in the family, the incest is in the family. There was this whole thing about the business person who was supposed to have been charged. Clinton, I honestly, as I speak to you, I don't know who it is. I haven't gone out to try to find out because I will get to know. But you
when
know,
we get off,
one
I'll
of
tell
the
you
reasons,
who
one
I
of the reasons people feel that strongly about it is because sometimes we in the media allow our private, personal feelings to overcome our professional responsibilities. In the case of our media colleague who was beaten and battered by her
partner.
I listened to a radio report the day after. The media, the only person who was not named, and I was in tatters, was the media person. But the batterer was identified immediately. And then on that same station later it comes that a prominent businessman is arrested and is in court for a worse charge or as bad a charge, but is not named.
Yeah,
now,
well,
now
I
as
think
the thing comes out, the law
says
protects.
that
but it didn't protect.
Sexual
perpetrator. But we are being selective.
Well,
how we apply the law.
The law is being selective because the law does not say that someone who is a batterer must be protected. But as far as sexual crimes, the victim and the perpetrator, alleged perpetrator, are protected.
Yeah, but in as much as we consider law as an ass, we cannot treat the law like an ass because while we might not agree with the law being selective, we cannot be selective in applying the law. The law applies to us. Even in its selectivity, it applies to us in full and equally. And therefore, we cannot say that, you know, the law is selective, so we will apply it selectively. But the thing that I'm glad that came out of it is while I understand the people who are saying that people should be named and so on, let me tell you, in the states and those societies that we like to refer to, you have something called a list of sexual offenders. You know, so everybody who has been accused and found guilty of a sexual offense, there's a name. And what the judiciary can do and the people of St. Lucia can demand is that you have a list of sexual crime offenders.
And any place that person goes.
And any place that person goes.
The community is informed.
The community can know. I mean, the thing which to such a stage now that, I mean, judges in the states and magistrates have a situation where they could even make you stand up in England in a corner with a sign saying, I sexually molested my child for 5 years. You know, so I think if we want to name and shame, that is the way to go. Ask for the development of a register of sexual offenders, particularly sexual offenders against children. Have a register of batterers. Have a register of those people. So if I want to know, you know, you come and hustle me as a woman or as a man, and you hustle, and then blah, 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 you have a place to go and find out if that person has a record. But by just naming, I think by requesting and demanding that we name, we're just trying to satisfy our rural appetite.
Yeah, I agree. And let's segue into this story from this major issue. This is a major story for us, and we should be following all the time. To a non-story, the allegation that there was a baby found in a dumpster this week. Now, some stations carried that as a news item, Um, if I were to carry it, it would be to only say that these reports are uncorroborated or not corroborated by police or anybody else, or any credible source, because from what I was hearing, the eyewitnesses, quote unquote, saw from somebody else's eye.
Was the baby demonstrated? Was the baby shown? Was the body shown? Was the child
Well,
found?
the eyewitness reported from somebody else's eye.
Oh, okay.
So he was. He
So
never
we don't
saw
have a story then.
Exactly. So there's no story. That's what I'm saying. So I
So
mean,
a non-story became a story.
became a story and became big news. The only thing I would have said, since the reports were all over, you know how these things spread like wildfire, that this is not true, that the police have no reports of that, they have no information, and we combed the length and breadth of the police force to find out, and they would have known, and also the medical fraternity, and there was nothing in that story. I don't know why someone would just think of
Rural story,
you know,
we're looking for.
bringing that
rural
and calling
story.
the
It's like
media.
the GIS story. That's a rural story.
Now, a more positive thing, and we're into children now. There was also a report in the U.S., and I will bring that one up before we talk about common entrance, which was one of the last common entrance that we'll see in that format on Thursday. So, but there were the children under media attack. There was a program, the juvenile justice system. They conducted a week-long program or 2-day training program in Grenada, and one of the things that came out of it was that the kind of material that children are exposed to is detrimental to their development, and this is something that is not new. We knew that for many years. You look at that situation in the US where there is a debate as to whether to try a 13-year-old as an adult for killing his younger sibling, his sister, 6 years old, by trying wrestling moves on her, the body slams, the choke slams, and everything else. And that's the big debate there. And I think that we are very laxed in what we broadcast over our airways, what we discuss over the radio, sometimes what we even print. I know that we have those freedoms to that sort of information, but then as adults, we make those decisions. We cannot throw that sort of mature information or material at young children whose minds have not been developed to the point where they can understand those things. Yes, you know, people will argue that children right now, they know a lot more than we even know ourselves, you know, but why do they know all these things? Because of what they have been exposed to. So all the pornographic material, all the violence that you see on TV at certain hours. I was watching television early in the morning, and the discussion was a sexual discussion, radio. I mean, if you want to pay for your program and have it, you know, at any time, you have pay-per-view, or you have, you know, your satellite radio, and you listen to your stuff in the privacy of your home or in your vehicle, being very responsible, mind you. If you have children around, then that's up to you. But I don't think that it is right for us to introduce that sort of material to children at an early age. And we also need to safeguard them from seeing that material because they practice what they see.
Yeah,
You disagree?
I agree and disagree. I agree that we need to protect our children from certain things. But what we live in a society, a copycat society. We want to do everything the rest of the world does. So we want to introduce children's rights, for example. There's an ad on TV which says every child below 18 has the right to have these millions of rights. And there's one which says that has a right to have a diary which the parent has no right to have access to. So on the one hand, you admit you're underage at my home, but you have a right to have a diary that I can't open. Secondly, there was this argument about whether to introduce sexual matters, the whole question of sex to children at school, make sex a curriculum.
Sex education.
Sex education. The gay, lesbian, whatever lobby is saying, hello, let's introduce this to children right now so that they can know from now what it is all about. And then I look at the society in the UK where a 14-year-old, the MI5 and MI6, the Secret Service in Britain, turned up at this lady's door and said, we come for your son, your 14-year-old son. She says, oh, he's in his room. What's he done? Oh, he's broken national security in the United States. He break into the computers. He's part of a gang that has done. No, my son, not my son. My son doesn't leave his room. He doesn't even allow me to enter his room. Now, this little guy is in a room with a computer at his mother's home, locked up 24/7. His mother says when she brings tea to him, she have to knock the door and put the tea down on the floor, and he will pick it up because she does not have a right to enter his room. She doesn't have a right to see what he's doing. And the guy is hacking into the Pentagon computer. And when they arrest him and go, she's crying, they made a big case. And the United States wants him to face, but Britain is saying we will not extradite him because he's underage, number one, and secondly, you're going to imprison. America is saying we don't want to imprison, we want to make him work for us. If he at 14 years old, he could break into our system, we want him to work for us.
I want him to work for me, Earl.
Okay, so I'm saying, my thing is, I think we have to be very careful what we adapt and what we adopt.
Yeah.
There are things that work elsewhere, but will not work here. There are things that work here that will not work elsewhere, and I think we have to be careful about the wholesale adoption and application of these things.
No,
Let me tell you, I have a 6-year-old granddaughter who is 6, and her next birthday I think is going to be 66. She occasionally says loud enough for me to hear, I have my rights! You know, and I've been ignoring her, I don't know for how long, but you'll certainly know when I can't take it again.
When she has no more rights.
Yeah. But she will know when she has no. But I'm not going to take her rights away. I'm just going to let her know that with every right comes responsibility.
And that's the point I wanted to make.
Like cleaning her room before she go to school.
Yeah, come together, come hand in hand. And I'm not saying that, you know, the thing is how we are taking it wholesale is because we import a lot of foreign media. We do not produce enough local content, and when you have so many media entities operating in this small space, that's the problem you
doing the same thing,
going
after the same stories,
you know. So you know, there is no differentiation of the product. Let's take our last break on Press Club. When we come back, just a few more issues to discuss. Don't go away, we'll be right back.